The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by SIDEBAR, its guests, callers, and advisors are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS Verizon Media Group. SIDEBAR, a 103.5 The Beat podcast, is a production of ILTV Studios and may not be reproduced or represented, in part or in its entirety, without the express written consent of Verizon Media Group. SIDEBAR is the intellectual property of Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved.
Welcome to SIDEBAR, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, and today we have with us Mr. Shyan Chipman. He is a disability advocate here in the Bahamas. Mr. Chipman, it's great to have you.
It's always a pleasure, Stephen. One of the things that we always want to do in that community is advocate as much as we can. You know what I mean? Again, there are people that are born with disabilities. There are people that end up with disabilities, along the way. And we want to keep pressing the buttons that be, or the powers that be, on those issues of disabilities and how inclusion and accessibility is so important and so vital in today's society moving forward.
Right. So let me ask you, for the people at home, some people may know you, some people may be unfamiliar with you. How did you get into the disability space to become a disability advocate?
Funny story. I built and designed costumes for Roots Junkanoo group for many years. And as our culture evolved, Junkanoo evolved, so did our lead pieces. And, we built them more elaborate. And again, they weren't engineered for someone 6'4". They were more engineered for someone 4'6". Much shorter, stockier. But because they were so big and so heavy, most of the times the guys would leave them after the first time carrying them, feeling the weight of them. And, me being the savior that I am, I would go into these costumes and take them around Bay Street twice myself, finding a formula of moving it 10 feet at a time. Nevertheless, I never paid attention to the damage that I was doing to my spine. And eventually, I started getting the effects of it, of knowing that something was wrong with me by losing balance. When you start to lose balance, you're not drinking, anything of that nature, but all of a sudden, you realize how in tune your body is with daylight or the time. As it got later, I found that I started to stumble like a drunken man, and in some cases I was out. I had to make people believe that I was actually drunk because I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And I realized that I had what you call spinal compression. And that's where, over the years, you compress your spinal cord. And I had to do 2 surgeries, and I have 1 more pending. So I went to the Bahamas National Council for People with Disabilities after my first surgery. And they asked me would I like to become a member. And becoming that member, being someone from the community and doing community work, I kind of immersed myself. They asked me would I join, and I immersed myself into the work of people that were physically challenged. And I realized how I can tie that into people from my community.
Right. So you said earlier, the disabled community involves some persons who are born with it, some people age into it. As a person who one day you're fine, you're carrying this big Junkanoo costume, the next day you're disabled, right? Does that give you a different perspective about the plight or the walk of a disabled person, as well as how the general public may perceive or how they might feel about it?
That's a very important question, simply because when you don't have an ailment, you cannot understand that plight. But because I have been on the other side of the mountain, I understand both sides, what it is to not have an ailment, now what it is to look from the perspective of someone that's physically challenged. So yes, it does play a major role in how people perceive a disabled people, because most people, they don't think much of it. Even a deaf person, you may say something, excuse me, and they may not move, and you may not think nothing, and automatically you go into defensive mode because you don't know. And nowadays, again, one of the things that we see the government getting more involved in is inclusion, which is very important. And the balance between someone that does not have a disability compared to someone that do.
Right. And so I want to dive into more about what the general Bahamian public can do and what our attitudes should be, as well as what our attitudes are. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get deeper into that. You are watching and listening to Sidebar, a 103B podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We will be right back.
Win a brand new 2026 GAC MPOW every week for 5 weeks. Every 10 reward points earns you 1 digital entry. The more entries you gain, the better your chances to win. 5 weeks, 5 cars. Will you be one of our lucky winners? Catch the keys today, only at Island Luck. Island Luck reminds you that it's only a game, so game responsibly.
Welcome back to Sidebar, 103B podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, here today with Mr. Shyan Chipman.
Yes, sir. Indeed.
He is a advocate for disability, a disability advocate. And one of the questions that I have for you is, how can the Bahamas be better in which ways can we improve for persons who are disabled? Like, what is needed? Because like you said, persons who aren't disabled may take certain things for granted, right? And they don't necessarily know how to put themselves in somebody's shoes, because if you're unaware that something even exists, then you're not, like, you may know that somebody is visually impaired, but you don't know sidewalks supposed to have an etching at a certain distance so that they can know where to cross. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in which ways can the Bahamas be more disabled friendly?
You know, that subject right there is also very important. We have to be more mindful and respectful to laws that are in place. The problem is the laws are not enforced. You know, you go to a grocery store and an able-bodied person is parked in the disabled body spot. And so, you know, that'll be a question I'll ask someone. You know, I'll ask a security guard, how is it that someone can park here, then the person that's physically challenged have to walk 20 feet. So you don't know what their ailment is, and you allow, so it's little things of that nature that we don't enforce.
Right.
Take for instance, in the United States, if you're not physically challenged and you're parked in a disabled spot, you pick up a $250 ticket.
Yeah. Or they may take your car.
Yeah. They may impound your car. Now, these are fines and monies that can go towards assisting with the disabled community or going into a solidated fund for that particular denomination of people, the disabled community.
Right. Yeah. So when it comes, because you're talking about like handicap spots, and that is one of them, right? And there are times where people are like, oh, this person, they don't look disabled, and there are numerous disabilities or numerous reasons why persons may have a handicap permit, may need to park in a handicap spot, right? That people are not aware of. Everything from pregnancy to older persons to, they might be the person who's driving and they might not be the disabled person. They might be picking up somebody who's disabled. And that's why, I know in certain cases it
is a balance, and that's very important to know, but it's also very important for the people that's there to monitor this action, because if they can put a cone there, then they're monitoring who comes in and who goes out. They use their discretion.
My issue is when they put the cone there and they end there to move the cone. Because it's one thing to block something, but if you block, who are you blocking for if you're not there to move it when the person who needs it?
I see it as if they make a personal business out of it because they're getting tips to allow people to park in, and it just gets contrary. And when you speak about different disabilities, what people don't realize, addiction is an ability, is a disability. Gambling is a disability. Eating disorder is a disability. We don't realize the amount of different disabilities that there are out there other than someone that's physically challenged.
Right. And we tend to only focus on the heavy and the broad ones. So like if somebody has mobility issues, that's clear. We could see that. If a person is blind or visually challenged, we say, okay, I get what that is.
If you see someone with their stick,
right,
then you wheelchair bound.
Right. But even with those, so how does somebody in the Bahamas who may be wheelchair bound get from point A to point B if they don't have somebody who's willing to drive them around? Because you go to places like Germany, you go to places like New York, the public transportation system, a wheelchair can get on the subway, a wheelchair can get on the bus, a wheelchair can get on the train, all these different cities around the world. You come here, and it's like, you need to know somebody with a van for you to get from point A to point B. Or you have to be able to, because I know there are people who, they can get up inside the car themselves, they can drive, they just can't walk, and so they'll take the time to maneuver. But
I think when it comes to our country, I think we're just catching up to the latest technology, and the country is growing. We're 52 years old, and others are older, and more modern and so forth. But nevertheless, that doesn't exempt us from creating more accessibility for physically challenged people.
Right.
The thing about it is we as a people, or the government of the day, this government, and the reason why I want to say this government is because they're the ones in the past 30 years to 40 years that has taken an opportunity or taken a chance with growing with the disabled community, actually listening to the disabled community, the current government. And I say that because I consulted with Public Service Minister Pierre Glover, and she was bold enough, her and the current prime minister were bold enough to allow 75 people that were physically challenged into the public service for the very first time. So this is a huge accomplishment. Now, this was 3 years ago. That has grown to 3 times the amount. So now they're opening doors that has never been open for people that are challenged before. People that were challenged, were considered thrown to the side. They were no use to society. They were no more good to themselves. And this is how they felt. They felt a sense of hopelessness. So we have to just knock on the doors of those that open those doors to kind of give people that were physically challenged hope again.
Right. And so while it is good for the government to make those choices, right, there's only, in my estimation, so much that the government can do, because the government don't run no food stores, right? The government, they write out the legislation, they have the policies in place for how food works or whatever, and the disability. But at the end of the day, when you go to these private institutions, what I'm saying is I would want to know, what can they do as a private individual? Because a lot of times people, they want to leave things for, they say, oh, the government need to do this, the government need to do that. But if you have a parking lot that only have enough space for 4 cars, and you say, well, let me make it smaller so I can fit 8 cars in it, and I just paint one blue and say that's the handicap one, but now it doesn't have enough space for somebody who has a wheelchair to get inside the vehicle that's parked there. Or I've seen places where the handicap spot is nowhere near the door, but they just like, okay, I need a blue spot, so let me just paint one of these blue, right? You see things that you see persons don't have ramps in place. And so in terms of that, it's great that the government is doing the right thing. But the government could hire 300, 400, 500 persons. The other persons who have those same 300, 400, 500 persons, then they go into a place to pay a bill, and they have difficulty accessing it. They have difficulty. I'm deaf. Nobody here does sign language. Y'all don't have nothing written out properly or on a little piece of paper that wear out and stuff, and you didn't make any allocation for me to participate in society itself, right? And so that's one of my main concerns when it comes to these things. And there are areas that sometimes people are just blind, but then sometimes it feels like persons are just not doing the right thing because it's not financially expedient for them. They've gotten away for so long without the ramp that they don't want to spend the $200 to get the cement to put a ramp in front of the building.
That has been a major issue for many years, accessibility. And some of the buildings are so old that you can't do much other than add a small cement ramp.
Right.
Now, what we try to do is we try to enforce the new building codes to have disability accessibility, doorways, restrooms, ramps,
elevators.
Elevators
Would be great.
if it's big enough. Well, you can't say escalators because that's not suitable for someone in a wheelchair.
Right. But so even with the older buildings, while I do appreciate, like, okay, there's only so much you could do with this building. If this building is open to the public, why don't? Because come on now, we've seen situations where, depending on what the event is happening, they will build a bathroom for a VIP section or for the dignitaries so that they don't have to travel as far to get to the bathroom.
So they're trying to make an impression.
Right. So now my thing is, how is it possible that you are running a commercial business and you've not made allocations to the person to make it possible for you to turn your lights on?
Because one person, too many, is not enforcing the law. It's there,
Right.
but it's not enforced. There's no fines in place. No one gets put before the courts because of it. So there's no seriousness and priority to attached to it, other than the fact that the security can tell you can't park there, and if you do, and you feel like you don't park there, he could go and call the wrecker. So you're at his mercy.
Or you feel like you could beat him, I could be back out before the record go.
I'm just going to dash right in here quick and come right out. So there's no priority behind it.
So how do we get persons to see it from a place of empathy? Because some people out there, they're not disabled. They don't know anybody who is disabled personally. How do we get them to empathize and say, I shouldn't do this just because I could get away with it?
And until the government enforces those laws, and the government has the disability section of social services in place, but until the government enforces those laws and law enforcement enforces those laws, but they don't have time to go by, and check to see if somebody is in a disabled post or not. Or one of the things that have been troubling people is that people who qualify don't have a disabled decal.
Right.
So now you have a car parked that doesn't have a decal, but the person is physically challenged. So if we enforce the law and we gave you a $250 ticket, do we give this person a ticket compared to?
Well, that's what the court is for, to decide whether or not it should be thrown out.
And is that a waste of time?
Sometimes. But what we're going to do is we'll take another break. When we come back, we're going to get more into the conversation about what the general public can do on a personal level when it comes to interacting with persons who are disabled. You are watching and listening to Sidebar, 103B podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Paradise Premium Foods, where exceptional taste meets everyday convenience. Right in the heart of Hurricane Hole Plaza, whether you're planning a beachside brunch, an intimate dinner, or simply restocking your favorites, we offer only the finest selection of local and imported goods, handpicked for quality, freshness, and flavor. At Paradise Premium Foods, shopping is effortless, service is personal, and every visit feels like a treat. From gourmet meals to go to organic essentials and indulgent treats, this is your neighborhood market elevated. Live well, eat better. Discover Paradise Premium Foods, now open at Hurricane Hole Plaza, Paradise Island. Paradise Premium Foods. Taste the difference.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay Eden well.
Welcome back to Sidebar, 103B podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We're here today with Shyan Chipman, a disability advocate, and we are talking about disability in the Bahamas. So the question that we left off at is, how can I, as an individual, help persons who are disabled to live, at the very least, an equal quality of life that is available to me as a Bahamian? And we talk about the parking, but beyond that, let's say I don't even drive. And so I say, I don't drive, so that have nothing to do with me. But what ways are there for us as individuals to help the disabled community within the Bahamas? Because it's still a community within the Bahamas. They're still a part of the Bahamian community, and I think that oftentimes we get so drawn into these what the academics call identity politics, right? Whereas this person is this, we forget we also have this overarching identity already. We're all Bahamians. Why should one Bahamian have less rights and less opportunities than another Bahamian? You know what I mean? And so how can I, as a regular Joe Blow, how can I advocate, how can I help the disabled community within the Bahamas?
Well, let me say this. I'm a part of 13 different organizations and in the executive of all of them. And I advocate for better living conditions, more inclusion, more accessibility. These are the main focuses, and I use these different platforms simply to bring awareness from different angles and open that door to others that are not physically challenged to see the plight of a physically challenged man. And really and truly, you just have to have compassion. You just have to be genuine, sincere about wanting to lend a hand to someone that needs a hand up, not a hand out. You know, and we just have to make available more opportunities. You know, we could say cookouts and do all these things, but, you know, I prefer to give people an opportunity to build compared to giving them a handout, because really and truly they're all capable in their own special way. Some people say, we love to use the word disabled. Really and truly, I prefer the word differently able.
Right. Is there a reason why you prefer differently able to disabled?
Because they still have the ability to be a productive citizen in society.
Right. So you want to emphasize more on ability as opposed to
disability.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you another question, because I noticed that you mentioned several times inclusion.
Indeed.
Do you feel like that is important for persons to see persons within this community being active, being a part of the community, so that because once again, it's difficult. Not everybody have the imagination to be like, well, let me put myself in the shoes of somebody who I've never met, I've never seen, but interacting with them on the job. And
let's just say 85% of the people that interact with someone that's physically challenged that has gotten an opportunity, and the way the physically challenged person interacts with that person, they give them that blow away service. And, you know, it's like, I didn't know. That's because most of us are not educated on the fact that these people still exist. And given the opportunity, they become in 9 out of 10 cases, they become your best employees. You know, and it's a good feeling to see companies and businesses giving them an opportunity, giving them hope, giving them something to look forward to. And a lot of them, they think that their life is done once they become physically challenged. And if I'm not mistaken, and like I said, I'm more on the hands-on side,
right,
person to person, face to face. That's the advocate that I am,
right,
compared to the technical side, the laws and the bylaws and all of the above.
right.
I'm more on the ground. My thing is, given the opportunity, these people shine. And if I'm not mistaken, I think every business, by law, is supposed to have 10 to 15% of their staff should be physically challenged or differently able, and that can answer
from that community.
phones, that can help.
Right.
A deaf person, when I consulted with Minister Pierrot for public service, you know, she's like, just we need some people that will do well in the public service. I couldn't go out there and get deaf and wheelchair bound without looking at autism, the blind, stroke recovery. These are all capable people. Though they are blind, they can still speak very well. They can still communicate. They can still do one-on-one, speak to people. They can still be customer service reps. And if there's a program for the blind, they can still work. So given the opportunity, they shine.
I mean, also, the other thing is we have the technology. It's not like this is the 1700s where Braille is this brand new invention. We now have the technology where most people don't type the words anyway. We send in voice notes back and forth. We say things. The computer could type out the words for us and transcribe. So there are already built in these capabilities with technology so that persons who we might look and say, oh, how they going to file paperwork, or how they going to do this, or how they going to send an email, the same way everybody else sends emails, because everybody's saying, Alexa, send an email to so-and-so.
Or some sort of AI.
Right, that's what I said. So
transmitted app.
I don't, at this point, I question if the person's ability to do the job should even, it's not whether or not they can do the job. It's what do you need to be done? And I mean, inside my mind, but I might be, once again, what do I know? I might be oversimplifying it.
Not really. You know what I mean? Again, at the end of the day, we just would love for the companies that would live up to the obligations of the laws and bylaws of the country by hiring these disabled people or physically challenged people and giving them an opportunity. And I think even with Minister Pia Roll, she partnered with Alive. So some of them went to Alive and, they were in technical areas and they were learning stuff. And some of them, because they were able to be hands-on, one or two of the deaf ones, one or two of the stroke recoveries, they worked in the warehouse and they were exceptional employees because they were able to be integrated back into the workplace, given that opportunity. They were given hope again. But, you got to say thank you for the boldness of Minister Pia Roll and the Prime Minister for opening that door to give them that opportunity. And that's my fight. Give them an opportunity, open the doors to them. The company should live up to the obligation and the laws that they should hire some physically challenged people. And I guarantee you, if every company had one physically challenged person in it, I guarantee you we would have a hopelessness problem in that area.
Yeah. All right. And you talked about persons who may be deaf or hearing impaired, and as well as persons who may be...
They can read lips.
Right. Well, that's...
If there's not a translator.
That's the thing. Inside my interaction with persons, when I've met persons who are like, I don't even know the term. Well, yes. Persons who they use sign language to communicate as their primary form of communication. They're reading lips because that's what they've had to do, because a lot of times there has not been allocation for them.
No.
And there is a level of concern about how that impacts one's psyche when people talk to you, but no one's listening to you. Because on one hand, like you said, they can read lips. But the average person who can hear can't read lips, but also isn't learning sign language. We don't even know the basics of sign language. To do a basic, we can't even say hello in sign language. Right? I'm not even certain. I'm not, as a person who is aware of it, I'm not certain which form of sign language we use in the Bahamas, whether it's the British form of sign language or the American form? Because I know that there are different standards and
You know, and the funny thing about that is, with that, again, you made a valid point by saying, I don't read lips. Here's an example. I had a friend of mine that moved to Switzerland. He wasn't the brightest dude in the room, wasn't a smart guy, but he came back 20 years later speaking French, German,
because that's what they speak over in Switzerland.
because he was forced to
Sure.
do it. So in the interim, with a physically challenged person who may lose their hearing, they may be forced to learn how to read lips. They may be forced to learn that additional language, which is
Sign language.
sign language.
Right.
And something. And that's how funny it is. Today, you're not in that situation. Tomorrow, you're in it. So because he was forced into a situation, and I was kind of impressed because I was like, wow, how he learned how to do that. When you're forced into a situation, in most cases, you have to do that. And if you speak slowly enough to someone that's hearing impaired, they can speak back to you, and believe me, because you've tuned your mind into it, now you're reading their lips because they're trying to speak to you back in that language.
So it all comes down to empathy and compassion and
Indeed.
seeing yourself in the other person.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
Before we go to this break, I just want to ask you, what for a person out there who may be, you say, differently able, all right, or who may know somebody within the community, what are some of the opportunities or the avenues out there available for them to go to help them, for lack of a better term, get help or get assistance?
Here's where,
Because I know that there, like, you have churches and charities and whether it's what the government is doing, but
well, the closest person to really document what's really happened, other than statistics, because 10 to 15% of the country is physically challenged, differently able. And if we have 400, let's just use this term, let's just say we're now at 500,000 people, because they haven't done a consensus in a little while. Let's just say we have that. What do we get?
you don't need to do the math.
We get 45,000 people that are physically challenged.
It's a significant number, yeah.
So my thing is, at the end of the day, the closest entity in the community, other than a nonprofit, is urban renewal, because urban renewal documents these things. Sometimes social services go around and they document certain things, but they go around. Urban renewal documents homes, houses, individuals who lives in the home who's physically challenged. And through that, we now live in a time of where we're data driven.
Yeah, so, okay. So, yes, but like, what if I wanted to go to somebody, the Disability Council, can I go to them and say, hey, we're having some issues, or my cousin, he recently lost his sight. What avenues are there for him to?
You know, most cases, and the reason why I made that point was for those that could not move. Those that can move, you know, I have a crazy suggestion. Join an organization. Allow them to see your challenge, and that organization is a network. And the more people you have seeing what you're going through, the more help you get, the more people you have surround you, and the more help you get. Join an organization, become a part of something. And when you become a part of your network, it becomes your safety net.
All right. So we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're going to close this up. You are watching and listening to Sidebar 103 The Beat Podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
2026 GAC MPOW every week for 5 weeks. Every 10 reward points earns you 1 digital entry. The more entries you gain, the better your chances to win. 5 weeks, 5 cars. Will you be one of our lucky winners? Catch the keys today, only at Island Luck. Island Luck reminds you that it's only a game, so game responsibly.
Welcome back to Sidebar 103 Degree Podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, and Mr. Chipman, I'm going to give you the final word. What is it that you would like to leave the audience with?
Well, I jot down about 10 points, you know what I mean? And I would like for, the listeners to understand what it is that I'm saying to them. And hopefully, this gets back to the right ears. And again, this is my 8 to 10 point plan that will be great for the government to implement, that is. And the first one is inclusive education with vocational training programs. What to implement specialized educational curriculums, vocational training centers, and partnerships with technical institutions to equip disabled persons with job-ready skills, tailoring, and customer service. Why it matters? Education tailored to different abilities open paths to employment and financial independence. It's going to get a little crazier here. Not really, not. Anyhow, tax incentives and grants for hiring disabled workers. What to implement? Offer tax breaks to wage subsidies to companies that employ individuals with disabilities. Introduce startup grants and microloans for disabled entrepreneurs. Why it matters? Encourages inclusive hiring practices and supports small business ownerships, fostering dignity and self-reliance. Number 3, accessible public infrastructure and transport. What to implement? Retrofit government buildings, sidewalks, public transport to be fully accessible, ramps, elevators, braille signage, voice-assisted systems. And why it matters? Accessibility is the foundation of inclusion. Without it, disabled individuals cannot fully participate in public life or employment. Number 4, a National Disability Service Agency, non-stop support hub. What to implement? Establish an agency that centralized support, offering counseling, job placement, assistive technology access, legal aid, social protection, enrollment. Why it matters? Streamlined support reduces red tape and ensures people with disabilities receive continuous targeted assistance. Number 6, public awareness campaigns and disability rights legislation. What to implement? Launch nationwide media campaigns to reduce stigma. Pass and enforce comprehensive disability rights legislation, anti-discrimination laws, workplace accommodations. Why it matters? Changing public perception and protecting rights are key to long-term inclusion and empowerment. Number 6, and this is my goal to achieve, life skills and adaptive training. Teach essential daily living skills such as cooking, cleaning, money management, personal care using tools adapted to individual abilities, visual cues, assertive tech, and mobility aids. Offer classes or one-on-one coaching to independent living centers through community programs. Last but not least, 2 more. Home modifications and assistive technology. Equip homes with modifications like grab bars, automatic lighting, voice control appliances, accessible bathroom layouts. Support independence. Train individuals to use assertive technologies, smart devices, screen readers, emergency alert systems to increase confidence and reduce reliance on others. Last but not least, support networks, safety planning, create structured support plans to include nearby caregivers, emergency contacts, check-in systems, access to community services, tech-making self-advocacy to help seek help when needed, empowering individuals to maintain both independence and security. Thank you.
All right. You've given us a lot to think about, Mr. Chipman. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, today. And thank you for joining us. Once again, this has been Sidebar, a 103 to Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, True God Still.
Tired of driving around from place to place just to get your car insured and licensed? Frustrated with the process of being back and forth from your insurance company to road traffic? Well, BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers just made insuring and licensing your motor vehicle as easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1. Visit us at the Road Traffic Department, Section 1, Thomas A. Robinson Sports Stadium. At our office, you can purchase or renew your insurance or get your vehicle inspected. We at BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers represent major carriers. Step 2. See the professionals at Road Traffic to get your vehicle licensed. Step 3. Enjoy your day. Insure with BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers today, saving you time and money. Your one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Great rates, convenient, excellent service. For more information, call us at 322-2221.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?